So we met through Tournament Poker Edge. Obviously just communicated a little bit online and stuff like that. But then we both ended up at the Cherokee WSOP circuit stop one time, and me and Carlos like, well, we gotta hang out and meet. And we did, and I still have that picture, I think, on my phone. The first picture we ever took together. I think we were both a little bigger then.
No,
actually, you might have been smaller.
No, we were both smaller.
Really?
Then, way smaller. This was like 2013.
I was hoping we lost weight since then.
Oh, you know what? We were smaller then, and we got a lot bigger, and then we're a little less.
That works.
So, but we haven't caught up to those.
Yeah,
definitely not.
Yeah, so we met there for the first time, and then I'm assuming a couple years probably went by before we actually hung out in Vegas, or maybe a year or something.
Like 2 months.
Really? You should have been telling this story.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't drink, so so this was this was April of 2013.
How do you know the dates? That's amazing. I would have been like, I don't know, 28,008.
Right. No, that was actually my first time playing live poker for real money. I'd done like some bar league stuff just to kind of get practice with how to play. No, that's not true, because I did go out to Vegas in 2011, but that was my first time going to a circuit event.
Okay.
And playing for money. And this was Cherokee's first event, actually.
Oh, dang.
The first one they ever did.
Wow, we really are old, huh?
Yeah, we are. And so that was April of 2013. And then I basically told you that, I was going to go out to Vegas and stay the entire summer for the first time that year.
That's
so
right.
like 2 months later, we met back up again at Vegas. And that's when I met, Mark and Big Dog and all the other TPE guys. And it's started a crazy adventure since then.
Man, you're not kidding. Yeah, so we had a TP house back then that we would rent, just a little pool, hot tub, and people would kind of come in and out. It was kind of like a revolving door of poker players stopping by and saying hello. And of course, Carlos was one of those people, and probably, I think we probably cooked out and had some burgers or something, and then Los fell asleep on the couch and just never left for like a
decade. Yeah. And what's funny is around that same time, Gloria was studying on TPE, I think, around the same time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Me too.
But I do have a story I do remember.
Okay.
I think. You might correct me, but like, no, that was 10 years later.
He's going to correct you.
I think the first time you ever came to the TPE house, you rode in like the trunk of the car.
I rode in the trunk of the car.
Not a little trunk, but like the back.
Yeah. So this was, I was a member of TPE.
Oh, man.
Like 2012, and I would listen to like the TPE episodes, the podcast, the podcast episodes. And so I met KB at Cherokee, and then when I got back to Vegas, he messaged me and said, like, all the guys are like, down at the Rio, like, you should come meet everybody. So I walked in, and I had on my green Big Dog shirt with Big Dog's face on it. And then I walked past Big Dog, who was sitting at a, I think it's called 3-card poker table. One of the, And so like he recognized me by recognizing his face on my shirt. And so, got a chance to meet everybody at the casino that day. And then they were all like, going to play. And I'm thinking, well, I'll just go back to my, back then it wasn't the crazy Brazilian lady's house. I think this was before Airbnb, but so this was Airbnb. This was like just somebody renting a room on
Craigslist.
Yeah, Craigslist. even worse than that, Craigslist. And so I was headed back there while they were going to play, but then they invited me to I guess they were going to the TPE house, not to play. So I said, you can just come back to the house, but these are a lot of big dudes. And so there's not a lot of room in the car with, KB, Big Dog, Danny might have been there, Mark. So it was a packed group, but the only way I could get there was like squeezing the little hat, the hat back. Yeah, it was something like that.
I'm trying to remember what it was.
It wasn't comfortable, but it was cool because, like I said, I've been listening to all these guys talk on the podcast for so long. And now this was like a live version of the podcast because I'm just sitting there listening to them, argue about stupid stuff. And I was like, oh man, this is just like a live version of the podcast. And so yeah, went back to the house there and just like you said, never left.
Yeah. Yeah. So many good years.
So you go ahead.
Well, I think what's really interesting was early on in your relationship with TPE is that as a member of TPE, you became so involved and so active that at some point you just kind of folded him into the team. Like you started organizing like the catalog and that type of stuff and tagging things, and you kind of almost put him to work.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I mean, he really did kind of become like a unofficial, 12th man or whatever for
Right.
TPE. Like, you were on the podcast probably more than any non-TPE person.
Yeah.
Certainly the live ones that we did. And yeah, he was helping us out behind the scenes, did some writing.
Yeah, I started doing we would do the weekly updates.
That's
like
right.
what's new at TPE and
Yeah.
like talk about the new videos that came out and like certain forum posts and everything. So I did that for a while and then went to created the questions for TPE University.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So there, once he started doing that, you stopped making him pay membership, right?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Next, I might have even paid you at one point, like
Yeah,
actual money.
Yeah. They definitely paid me.
At least a free membership.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
I
Yeah.
remember.
I still have a free membership. Yeah.
Yeah, that's lifetime.
Yeah.
There you go.
Every once in a while, I give somebody like a lifetime membership, but I really just set it up until like 2022 or whatever, and I thought that was lifetime because I'm like, TV is not going to be around in 2022,
Yeah.
and they'll hit me up and like, "Hey, my membership ended." I'm like, "Oh, sorry, man. I set it like 2045 or something."
Yeah. So it all started. So TPE started in 2010, right?
Yeah, I think we started
April.
working on it in 2009. Yeah, because it was the year before Black Friday, which was 2011. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we launched the company April 16th, the year before Black Friday, and it took off really fast, and it was going so good, way better than we ever thought. When we started the company, we were just like, oh, it'll be cool if we like break even, but we'll have our own little community to hang out in and just, become friends with all these poker players. And then a year later, Black Friday hits, and we're just like, oh crap. And I think we probably lost half our membership within a month.
Including me.
Well,
Yeah.
because I had it on auto pay and I'm still.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remind me, I'll just cancel that and set you up with a lifetime. So I honestly, at that point, we were kind of like, this is probably over. Like, who's going to stay signed up to a and especially at that time, I would say 85% of our members were U.S. citizens. So we just kind of scrambled and pivoted, as they say in the business world, and we basically started hiring a bunch of like pros from Europe, and we've hired a guy from Australia and some more Canadians, and made some structural changes to the business, and somehow survived, and somehow are still surviving. Like I think about it sometimes, almost as a humble brag. Like we outlasted Card Runners,
Yeah.
we outlasted Deuces Crack, like we outlasted all these sites, and we're not as active with it as we used to be. Primarily because TPE was really always meant to be like a community more so than a training site. I think
Yeah.
there was going to be training content, but it was really all about like we used way before Twitch and stuff. Like we had a chat room that people would hang out in while they
Yeah.
were playing and sweating each other and stuff like that. So once life got busier and we weren't as involved in the poker world as much as we used to, sort of the vision of the site changed. So, but yeah, it's been a crazy run.
But yeah, I did leave after Black Friday because I thought online poker, and that's why I ended up meeting you in Cherokee because I was like, okay, well, there's no online poker.
Yeah.
Guess I got to figure out how to do live now, which I even didn't want to do even back then. But around 2012 is when I realized that, there were some online sites popping back up. And that's when I came back around to TPE and then just really dove in head first at the beginning of 2013.
Mhm.
And so like that's when I kind of started with tournaments because before that I was playing just on my own before TPE single table satellites on poker sit and goes on Poker Stars. And then they started to die out, so I started moving to multi-table sit and goes. And then somebody told me, shout out to Buffy Slayer. Buffy Slayer told me about TPE to learn multi-table sit and goes. So I still wasn't playing tournaments yet.
45 mans.
Yeah, 45 mans, 180 mans. But then when Black Friday hit, I thought that was over. And so I was going to have to play live poker. And with live, you didn't have, at least at the time, I didn't know about sit and goes live. And so I thought it was gonna have to be tournaments. And so I was like, well, I was on that tournament site one time. Let me go back to it when I really got into tournaments. So like TPE, that second time around, kind of helped me get started with tournaments. And around the same time was helping Gloria get started with tournaments. And we met, as tournament players. So I gotta thank you for helping introduce me to Gloria.
So I want to hear a little bit more about that, because you both have amazing stories, amazing journeys that are very outside the traditional box, right? And you're both amazingly talented poker players. So how did you guys meet? How did this all come and unfold? I want to hear the juicy stuff.
People at home don't know that they're not. No, it's okay. It's out. It's out. I'm just kidding. It's
Oh
out.
my gosh, why are you gonna do that to me?
They're public.
Wasn't it in the poker.org article that just went out like yesterday? Oh my gosh, I literally.
No. I was joking. They're out. It's public. It's public.
Like, oh my god.
They're public now.
Okay. All right. Well, now that I've embarrassed
Cat's out of the
myself.
bag. Way to go. Way to go. They haven't told their family yet. I'm just kidding.
Gosh.
How'd you guys meet? Sorry.
Well, I'll start because it kind of links to the other story. If we were going way back,
Yeah,
so
I wanted to kind of talk about TPE too as well.
Oh, like what? Let's talk about TPE.
No, because that was the first training site, and that was one that I ever heard of. And I was wondering, were you guys like one of the first ones that was out?
There were a few before us. When we started trying to think of a business, because we set out just to start a business around poker. We weren't sure what it was going to be, but at some point it dawned on us that all the sites that we were members of focused on all kinds of poker. So
Right.
like I was a member of Poker Savvy was the site, the first one I was a member of. And they had tournament videos, but then they also had, PLO and cash and all this stuff. So you'd watch like the latest tournament series, and then you had to wait 2-3 weeks for the next tournament series to come out. So eventually we were just like, well, why don't we just start our own? And we won't do anything but tournament videos. And I think that's kind of what helped us launch, because I think a lot of people were in the same boat. We're like, well, I don't want to sit through these Raz videos waiting for the next tournament
Right.
video to come out, So yeah.
Because when I became a member of TPE, I was already a live player. I played like board games, house games, and stuff like that. And when I found that site and I started studying on it, I was like, this is amazing, because everyone that I played with, they had no clue like what positions mean, like what under the gun meant or anything. And I was like so excited that I used the site to beat up on the board games, and I would win like the certificate all the time. Like it would be like $100 gift certificate. And when I went to my first casino, I think it was like in Mississippi, maybe Tunica or something like that, I think, or maybe New Orleans. Either way, no one knew anything. And I had the superpower that I got from TPE, and I was like,
That's so cool.
I'm gonna crush everything. And it was like all eyes were on me. And my first circuit that I played was in New Orleans, and the very first tournament that I played, that was the first circuit, the first tournament that I played, because I decided from watching TPE I was going to become a professional. So I sold my cleaning business, got the money from it, and I was on my way. And I end up in Jacksonville first. And I used that knowledge, and I think I won like maybe 4 or 5K seats to the main off of like maybe like a $1,500 bankroll was in my notebook. Did you say like a $1,500 bankroll? It was crazy. And it was only from just watching those videos. Like I knew so much that the world didn't know at that time. And then I went to New Orleans and played the circuit event. The very first one I played, final table.
Wow.
Boss. Like all from TV. So I was just so thankful for that site.
Worth it. The membership was worth it.
Oh yeah, it was definitely worth it.
Value
That's how I got
added.
my start, made so much money. I wasn't playing online.
Yeah.
I was just playing live, and none of the live players knew that. It was some, but it wasn't. It was so many that didn't.
Yeah.
Where, like, I always just made money. I couldn't believe it. So
That's
yeah.
so cool to hear. Thank you for sharing that story, because We don't hear that a lot, to be fair, but every once in a while we
Yeah.
do, and I'm like, that is so cool to hear. And that this makes me want to go back and do something that I do about every 2 years, which is go into our membership database of everybody who's ever been a member, and I just search names of currently successful poker players.
Yeah.
And it's so cool when something pops up. Like there's 3 main event champions who were once TPE members.
Wow.
To be fair, one of them was a well-established poker player before that. But it's so cool
Phil
just to go
Hubby.
plug in like a name. It was not Phil Hubby.
You're saying there's still time.
Yeah, there's still hope. But yeah, it's pretty cool to go back and see those stories. Like, oh wow, this dude just won the main event and he was a member 9 years ago or something. Because there's like 15,000 of them or something. So you got to think,
This year.
blind squirrels eventually.
This year.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
year.
Now I'm gonna be tracking. Were you active in the forums and stuff on the site, or you just watch the videos?
Just the videos. I was not at the time. I was with David Jackson, my former husband,
Okay.
and I think he was very
Oh.
more active.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, I was a mom. I had a business. I was doing a lot of stuff. So
Yeah.
at night I would watch the videos. It was enough for me to go and
Yeah.
continue to make money.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so during the same time, one of the TPE pros was Andrew Brokers, and this is like
Yeah.
one of the videos that she used to really like his videos.
Yeah.
And so when I came out to Vegas that year, after meeting KB at Cherokee, I met Andrew in Vegas, and then he and I talked and hit it off. I went and railed him on a break, and then told him my story a little bit, and he decided to interview me for his podcast, the Thinking Poker podcast, and I was on several years in a row, multiple times, and then eventually when Nate Mavis, the previous co-host, retired from the show, I was brought on to co-host the show. And so to answer your question about how Gloria and I met, one of the things Andrew asked me when I started, to host the show is like, who do I want to interview? And so I always knew that, I, seen Gloria and David Jackson around, and I was like, I never, heard an interview with them. I never read an article or anything. So I like to, know more about their story. So this would have been November of 2021 is when I started hosting the show. And we reached out, but we were not able to get the interview going. And then like a year later, we started interviewing Lori Persinger, who Rob also interviewed after her big run at the WPT at the Win, which I think was November of 2022, this past year. And I was surprised that very few people interviewed her besides Rob. Like,
I was shocked too. I was almost upset.
I'll definitely.
I was like, how is this not a bigger story? And I personally, because I love Lori to death. I've played with her several times. We're very good friends. And when that happened, I intentionally waited a little bit because I wanted to see.
That's what I did.
I was like, I wanted to give her an opportunity. Like if somebody big came along and nobody came, and I was so pissed. And I'm like, Lori, please, like let's go on and talk. So yeah, same thing. It was like, how is this not a bigger story?
Yeah, Lori and I have been friends since like 2015 or 2016. So when she had a deep run, and I already know that she's got this great personality, that I thought, I'm gonna wait and let everyone have their rounds, and then we'll go and like do a deep dive conversation with her. But like you said, nobody interviewed her besides you, and then I was pissed as well. So I was like, you know what, if they want to do it, I host a podcast now. And so we interviewed Lori, and then in the process of interviewing Lori, we talked about how few Black women there are that play poker. And almost like magic, right after that, Caitlin has her big score.
That is so great.
And so then we interviewed Caitlin. And then so same thing. After Caitlin's big score, I don't think she got a lot of interviews immediately. But I kind of saw that trend happen, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to interview a different Black woman every month for the year.
I love it.
And so
I'll find a girlfriend.
back through my mental Rolodex to figure out who else I can interview, and I thought to myself that yeah, we did reach out, to the Jacksons a while back. Like, let's try to interview Gloria now. And so when um I reached out to interview her is when we first met. Actually, I got Lori to kind of like, introduce us because I knew they both played live, and being, two of the, few black women that you see around, they might know each other. And at the time I'm thinking, she's a married woman. So I was like, I didn't want to just cold call her. So I had Lori kind of, introduce us. And that's how we got on the phone to talk about setting up the interview, and then that's when we met. And I'll let her take the story from there.
You did a good job.
Yeah, but you
It's
might
really
have known.
good.
See, I think the part like the connection to TPE, like some of that stuff you didn't know is like how I met Andrew at the beginning and how I ended up.
Everything's all intertwined.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Small
It's
world.
crazy.
So I'm highly spiritual, not religious, very spiritual, and I don't believe in coincidence. So it was definitely divine, and I knew it once I met him over the phone, not even in person. But you guys would know because so many things has happened. So the world who probably doesn't believe the way that I believe, maybe they would get it. So it was so many things that happened. I could have met him when I was on TPE because he was active in the forum, but I just didn't look in the forum. We could have met then. We both are from the Atlanta area. We know the same people, played in the same games, and I swear I never even heard of a Carlos Welch in my life, And I know most of all the black poker players that plays poker, and they know me. So um, David and I, during it when he reached out to me, well, when Lori reached out to me, said that Thinking Poker wanted to do an interview with me. I was like, who is Thinking Poker? And she was like, well, someone named Andrew Brucos or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I want to do have him call me. And he was like, she was like, well, my friend Carlos Welch. So, Carlos Welch, I thought it was like another white guy or something. I don't know. Like, I didn't think it was a black guy. So then I was like, well, have him to call me because I don't do like social media, DMing, texting, whatever it's called. He has to call me. And so I was playing at the Bellagio at the time, the 5-5 game, I think, or 2-5, whatever they have there. And she had him to call me, but it took like an hour or something before he called. And when he called me, it was like an Atlanta number. So I was like, who's this that I don't know that's from Atlanta? And so immediately when we started talking within the first 10 minutes, it was like a familiar spirit. It was like, I know this person, but I didn't know him. And then I either asked him or Lori to send a picture. And when I saw the picture, I was like, this is the guy. Like, I was like, I immediately asked him, I said, where are you? I was like, do you live here? And he was like, I do live in Vegas, so I don't know anything else. I don't know he's living in a car. I don't know he's in a hotel. I don't know anything, right? I was like, do you live here? He was like, yes, but I'm in Laughlin. I was like, okay, is that close to Vegas? And he was like, well, it's 2 hours away. I was like, oh, I was going to ask you to meet up and let's have lunch because the spirit was so familiar that I needed to like see this person in person. And he was like, I'm not coming back to like the 18th or the 21st. And this was on the 8th of March. So I was like, okay, well, whenever you come back, let's meet up and have lunch. And then he told me the story about living in a car and playing poker. None of that turned me off. So I wasn't interested.
Strongly, buddy.
I wasn't interested like that in the beginning, but I was interested in like, this is a familiar spirit. He's from Atlanta, and now I done found out that he's like living in a car, and I'm like, no, You have a friend here in Vegas now, because I live here now, and you don't have to play poker in a car. You can come sit on my couch and play poker. Like, in my mind, I felt it was so like we're family. That's all I knew. And we talked for like 2 hours on the phone, and he was telling me, "Oh, I don't talk on the phone. I don't do interviews where I have to talk to call anyone." I was like, "Okay, whatever." And we talked for like 2 hours. And so after that, I got off the phone and I called my daughter and my sister, and no one answered. So I just stared at his picture and I'm like, something is something is very weird, right? So it was that night I went into meditation, and then I sent the picture to my daughter and my sister, my other sister, and I just sent the picture, and everybody said, "Who is that?" I said, "This is the man my soul been waiting for." And I knew it. And my daughter called me. She was like, "Mommy." Mommy. She's like 19. And she's like, "Mommy, are you serious?" I said, "This is the man I had the dream about and I wrote about. It's him. I can hear it in his voice and his demeanor. It's him." And she was like, "Call him back." I was like, "How?" He said he don't talk on the phone. And this is a one-time thing. And he told me that I have to go on his website and schedule the podcast. So how am I talking to him again? She was like, "Just make up something. Just lie and say you have another question about the podcast." And I'm like, "Jai, he's going to know I'm lying." And she was like, "Just do it. We got to find out, right?" So I text and I was like, "I have another question about the podcast." I don't think I said exactly what the question was because I didn't want to lie, but I was lying anyway. So,
Bluffing.
Right. So I did it that morning, and there was no answer. He didn't respond back. So I was just like, okay, whatever. So around 10 o'clock that night, I left to go play cash. And then he texts, he was like, "Oh, I just saw, you text me, but I'm never on my phone. But if you can talk, I can talk." So I just called. I was like,
I think I missed a phone call because my phone is always on silent, and it's like,
and he still didn't answer.
Like I don't, keep my phone on. Yeah, people don't. You guys have known me for a while. Like we've had very few phone conversations.
But now I don't feel bad because I texted you like 3 or 4 days ago and you didn't never answered me. I don't feel bad anymore. He doesn't answer.
Yeah.
I'm like Carlos. If we can't get it done via Zoom or something.
My phone was on silent, and the only number that would ring that would get through is my mom. So like if a number calls that I don't know, it'll ring on their end, but I won't hear it because it's silent. But then later that night, I kind of like happened to pick up my phone and I saw I had this missed call, and I recognized the number as her number that I just called, and so that's when I texted back.
So how did you feel? Because I never asked that question. When you saw a missed call from me after talking to me the day before.
I just called back to see what the question was.
His heart went pitter patter.
No. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I text you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably text.
What do you want?
Yeah,
that's exactly how he was. Pretty much like, "How can I help you? What is this about?"
So yeah, I was like, responding, returning the phone call in my own way via text, and then that's when we got back on the
So
phone.
you didn't feel anything during that first phone call? Because you talked to me for about 2 hours.
Well, the first 2 hours that we talked was primarily about
Poker.
not necessarily poker, but the interview.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to set up an interview for the podcast.
He was in business mode.
And I was definitely like super excited about that because I'll put it to you this way. When like I didn't know Gloria personally, but I knew of Gloria and her results and David and his results, but neither one of them are that at least, you know, via media, are that like outspoken. So I didn't really know their personalities. I had this experience with Lori where we had this conversation on the podcast with her about um, black women being underrepresented in poker media, even though, like, of course, there's a small number of them in poker, but there's more than zero.
Yeah.
So it was crazy, especially for our podcast, to go that long to not have a single black woman on, and then we interview Lori, and so many other podcasts have it as well. And so with the Lori, like when you said you were kind of pissed, I felt the same way, and I kind of, you know, wanted to hear that fire from Lori, but Lori's so nice. She's got this, like, you know, personality. We got a little bit of it out of her. But when I was on this phone call with Gloria, like, she had that fire from the beginning. So the whole time I was like, yes, this is the one. This is the one who's gonna, like, you know, her passion is so contagious, and when she speaks, she commands the room. And so I felt that immediately on that first call. So I was definitely excited about that. But you also have to remember, when I call her, I'm thinking she's still a married woman. Find out
Right.
she's been divorced for 5 years. Like, I didn't know that at the
Yeah.
time of the call. So I definitely was not, like, you know, thinking about, you know, her on a personal level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't creeping.
No.
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, and for the record, I wasn't either. I hadn't not only hadn't I've been not with David for 5 years, but I hadn't dated or anything, you know, for those 5 years. I was just completely focused on myself, my healing, my children, and poker. So many guys tried to talk to me over time, but I'm like, no, I'm not interested. I had my fair share. I've been married twice, have 5 children. We're good, you know. But that first conversation, I knew, because about, maybe, I say 2 years, but it could have been 3 years prior, I'm minding my own business, sleeping, and I have this dream. So, and this dream is an overwhelming feeling of, like, love and this being. I don't know if it's like myself. I don't know if it's a man. I don't know. And I was hoping it was myself and not a man, because I'm like, I'm done. Like, I done gave to the world, been fruitful, multiplied. Like, we're good. Like, I just want to focus on poker. And it was like so much love and protection, and this being admired me so much. This being saw me. And so I woke up out my dream, and I was a little angry, because I'm thinking, like, you know, is God trying to say there's someone for me, you know, and I was okay with not being with anyone. You know, I wanted poker. That's what I wanted. And so I tried to go back to sleep, started having the same dream, woke up out of my dream, said, I'm not going to sleep. I'm just going to go into theta and meditate. That's it. And in my meditation, it was just overwhelming, where it literally made me cry. So I got up and I just wrote about it. I wrote what I felt. I wrote what I saw, and I just left it there. And I told my children and everyone, and sometimes I would go back and read it and be like, this has to be when I meet myself. Like, one day I'm going to heal, and I'm going to meet me. I'm going to meet Gloria, and it's going to feel like this. That's what I'm saying. So I would call it Dear Self. But even though everything went to say Dear Husband, and I'm like, I'm never getting married again. Like, I don't even know. But anyway, so that familiar, like, it felt so familiar when I talked to him on the phone. It felt just like what I wrote, and he hadn't said anything. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know anything. And then when my daughter told me to
Call back.
yeah, to call back, and I did. We were talking, and I think I was just telling him about how I felt about Harriet Tubman, and how I felt that she was like my spiritual mother, because I feel like I'm her sometimes, especially at the poker table and in life. And I was telling him certain things that I did, like during the corona during Corona. I didn't have live poker, so I went to a little school to get a massage therapy license. But even though I knew that like, I'm good with touch, and my hands, I always felt like they were healing. And so I just went and got the license, and I started working on people. Like, there was a couple ladies that took care of people during Corona. They were nurses, but they were in so much pain because they're picking up on heavy people, sick people, and all this stuff. And I created this little sanctuary called Underground Healing at my house, and I would work on people that helped other people. So I was like the Harriet Tubman, So I was telling him about that, and he's told me that he donated to this organization that was inspired by Harriet Tubman called the Underground.
It's called Operation Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
And what they do is they rescue children from human trafficking. And so, in fact, there's a movie coming out about the guy who started it, whose name is Tim Ballard. The movie is called Sound of Freedom. It'll be in theaters after July 4th. Go check it out. But it was like this situation where she called me back. I'm thinking this about the podcast. But from even that first call, when I called to set up the interview, she told me that she was from Atlanta, and we played in some of the same home games. And then maybe on that call, we started talking about satellites, which is another thing we specialize in. And we just started seeing so many things that we have in common. And then on the second call, we both, have this Underground Railroad connection. And then like every time we talk, there will be times where we like complete each other's sentences, or we'll say something that's like really important to me, and it's also really important to her.
Carlos, you told me when we did an interview, you said after the interview, you said I met myself. He said I was on the phone. It was like I met a version of me, the female version of me. You said it's like it's the same thing you said. It's like you saw yourself. He told me that a couple months ago.
Yeah.
He's like, I met myself.
Yeah, it was just like that.
Yeah, and so after we, like 10 minutes in the second call, I said, I have something to tell you. And because my daughter is like, Mom, tell him. Like, he has to know. He has to know who he is, Now, I didn't know if he was in a relationship. I didn't know he could have been married, but that wasn't my job. My job was to just let him know that I know who he is. Right? And I don't know the purpose. It wasn't to like get together, but he needed to know that he was the person that was in my dream. So I just said, listen, I don't want to freak you out, but I don't want to freak you out, but
I'm about to freak you out.
Yeah. Like you're the completion to my soul. Like you're my soulmate. And he was like, okay.
I call.
I think I said something like, I don't know if you have a girlfriend, I don't know if you're married, like, but you're that completion. I knew it.
Yeah.
And then when he just said, he didn't get off the phone. He seemed scared, like really scared. He seemed like he stopped talking, and I just started telling him things about me, but I was telling him things about him that I had no clue of.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do anything but agree. And then so he was interested. So we started doing like a timeline, like what was happening in my life during this time and what was happening in his life. And it was like just such a connection.
Wow. Yeah, like we kind of in a way live like parallel lives, just like, sometimes different places, sometimes same places. Like I said, like we both specialize in satellites and like at Cherokee, like there's no way we hadn't run across each other. And then also just like, moving from Atlanta to Vegas, which I'd done pretty much. I left Atlanta around 2015 and, bounced around on the West Coast, but pretty much settled around Vegas in 2020. And then she basically did the same, left the South and moved to Vegas like a couple years later. So it's almost like
I moved to Vegas to find him.
Oh yeah, tell her that story.
Like
Tell her that story.
real. I didn't know that I was looking for him, but yeah.
This would have been July of last year during the World Series, and so you want me to tell the story?
Well, you're gonna mess up the podcast that's coming out.
That's okay. It'll be today is Saturday, right?
Yeah.
It'll come out Monday. So 2 days. Not everybody will hear this.
Okay, I'll tell the story. So last year I was playing the ladies event, the 1K, and I was chip leader. The end of day 1, all day 2, and my ex-husband David Jackson also was deep in a tournament. I think it was like a 3K where he got heads up with Phil Hemming, and we were both in the same tournament. I mean, in the same place. So he's over here playing, and I'm over there. I'm chip lead over there. He's like chip lead over here, but we're not together. But we're still together because we're family, right? We have children together, and if you don't know us, if you know us and you don't know what happened, you would think that we're still together because we're still
Which
close.
is why I thought that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of day 2, I did this like real sick bluff, and I had a rail, and one of my friends from London had just came up and like kissed my forehead, and I'm at the table full of women, and the very next hand I bluff off most of my chips. So now I'm short, but I still get to day 3 and I go out 30 at something, which is not on my Hinder Mob because apparently, according to Carlos, I have like 3 different Hinder Mobs. So it's on a different one. So I have money out there that I made that just not together, right?
Right.
Okay.
That's right.
So
Fix it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I end up busting, and David ended up beating Phil Hemming and winning. And it was so exciting for me because we both started this journey together, TPE. Yeah, so he's one of the pros, and I am too. But and so it was like such a great time for me, and in that moment of my life, and I'm very authentic. So in that moment, I was super happy. He had won the biggest score ever. We started this journey together. I almost won the ladies tournament, and it was just amazing. But that morning when I got home, it hit me. It was like, whoa, we're not together. And I was even thinking about it, it makes me feel sad because I was so sad because that was our moment. This is what we've been working for. And life just happened. And now we're family, but we're not Jay-Z and Beyonce at poker. Right? So that hit me and I was so sad. So I went to the Wynn to play another ladies tournament. And I'm standing in line and I see this tall, beautiful model like Black woman, and when I saw her, there go my spirit again. It's like, talk to her. Like I'm drawn to her. It's the same familiarity that I felt with him. And I'm like, no, I'm not saying anything because I was so sad like the next day. And so we're standing in line buying our seat together. And then when I bust that tournament, she bust the same time. So I'm like, we're walking. She's like ahead of me. I'm like right there. I'm like, and it's like, go talk to her. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. So I cut her off and went that way. And I used the bathroom and she was just standing right there when I got out. So I was just like, she looks at me. I look at her. She was like, hi, my name is Jay. And I'm like, hi, I'm Gloria. And we started talking. And I do some weird stuff again. And I just said to her, I could be weird sometimes. I said to her, do you want to go shopping? And this lady didn't know me. She was from London. She spoke with a beautiful accent. And she, and she was like, I do. And so I was like, okay, well, we can ride in my car. So we get in my car, we go to the outlet malls, and we go shopping. We go to this store. What's the purse we have together? Anyway, this fancy purse store, and we both looking at purses, and we come back and we have the same purse. The same purse, and we're like, okay, let's just buy it. And we both bought the same purse. It was like $200 something. And I was telling her about she was telling me that she's so surprised that she doesn't know me, because it's like she looked up my results and she was like, you're so amazing. And she was telling me she was railing David the same time I was railing him, and she saw me. And anyway, long story short, she was telling me that there's this guy that I think you'll be a good mate with. He's here in Vegas. She knew that I was sad because we talked about that. She was like, he's here in Vegas and I want you to meet him. So she said, I'm going to look him up right now. So we're at the outlet mall. She's trying to look up his information, and she's talking about Carlos. I swear. She's trying to look up his information. She's like, the internet doesn't want to work and this and that. So we do it for like 45 minutes to an hour trying to figure out, and I'm like, it's okay. I don't want to meet. I don't want to talk to anyone. She was like, no, he'll be a good friend. He'll be good for you. And she said, but I think he moved to Vegas. And she was like, he's the only thing is he's a knit caster. And I didn't know what that meant. Right? I thought she was talking about like he cast some type of show or something, like a blogger. I don't know. So I didn't understand, and I was like, it's okay. It's really okay. She said, well, when we leave here to go get something, I'm going to show him to you. She said, I've been following his life for 10 years, and you guys would be good friends. And I really didn't know what she was talking about. But I'm like, whatever. So we go get something to eat. We completely, forget about it. And she leaves the next day. I give her a hug. We change Facebook, but I'm not really online. And I never really hear from her again. And so within a month or so after I met Carlos, I posted him on my Facebook, not his name, just the picture.
You're forgetting the part where she told you should move to Vegas.
Oh, that's important. This is how I got to Vegas. I lived in Florida.
This was during the World Series.
Right.
So she lived in Florida, but she was here for the summer.
Oh, yeah, this is so important. Because before she left me, she couldn't find his information, this Nickcaster guy. Couldn't find his information. And she said, you're so sad, you should move to Vegas and just get a fresh start. Because everyone in Florida knows David. They know us being together. And now, she was like, you should move here and just start over. And I went home that night, and it was just like, in my meditation, it was like, okay, we're moving to Vegas. I never talked to her again. I called my sister. I said, I need to find a house in Vegas, and I'm moving to Vegas. So my sister helped me look for a house. I found a house here in Vegas. Within like 2 days, everything worked out for me. I left Vegas, went home, packed up my whole house, told my kids, because most of my kids are adults, if you want to come, you can. If you don't, I'm leaving in 3 days. They thought I was crazy. I packed up the house, got the moving company, moved everything, and I left. And I never talked to her again until like a month and a half or 2 months. She was friends on my Facebook, I guess, and she saw a picture of him.
Hold on, wait a minute. So
okay, you finished.
So remember, I said November 2021, I started hosting the show. And we reached out to get them on an interview, and that didn't happen. July 2022 is when she met the Lady J, and she tried to tell her about me also. Now, at this time, neither one of us, it's like from two different sides, we're trying to the universe is trying to get us together. And so she moved pretty much the day after the lady that she never met before told her to move, she moved. She went and found a house the next day. And so again, this is still July 2022. And so she finally gets here, and Lori final table or goes deep at the WPT in November of 2022. So like a couple months after she moved to Vegas, and that kind of was the impetus for me to reach back out to try to interview her um, in March of this year, a couple months after Lori had her deep run, and so we talked on the phone. And another part that we didn't get to is like when she called me back on that second call, we talked that night for about 8 hours.
Yeah. 8 to 10 hours.
Overnight. And
Yeah.
we pretty much did that almost every day for like the next 10 days.
Yeah.
Because we just had so much in common. And during that time, like I said, like she said, I was in Laughlin, and she didn't really want to do the podcast until after she met me in person. And I told her I wasn't going to be back in Vegas until the 21st, because that's when, I could get free rooms at the Rio. I was down in Laughlin because they gave me free rooms.
Right.
So I was going to go wherever I can get free rooms. That's why I was like, I'm not coming back until they give me free rooms. And so we scheduled the podcast for after that, but then they gave us this long time period to kind of talk and get to know each other. And so we decided, so my room was booked in Vegas for the 21st, which was on the Sunday. But the Friday and Saturday before that, I was actually leaving Laughlin because it's hard to get free rooms on the weekend. So I was actually going to go back to Vegas a couple of days earlier and just sleep in my car until my free rooms came up. And then when I said I was coming to Vegas earlier, we decided to meet in person before the 21st. So that was on the 18th. And so during this whole time, we talked for like 10 days, sending pictures back and forth, but we didn't do like FaceTime. Like no, and I ain't sending no updated pictures because I've been in the hotel for like 2 months without a haircut. So I was like, but she had a student who was a barber who, would cut her kids' hair in exchange for coaching lessons. And she was like, well, I'm just going to arrange for you to get a haircut before you meet me because I don't want a bad first impression. But because so I know that this guy is the guy that was in my dream that I wrote about, but I was praying that I would be like attracted to him. And then he started telling me these stories of like living in a car, and I'm not like this super like fancy person that need all of this stuff, but I like quality things, right? So the stories he was telling me, I was like, are you sure this the guy? So kind of like questioning God a little bit, because I'm like, it's cheap.
wait a minute, like
You buys used bread.
so you haven't had a haircut in 2 months, and I was like, okay, God, at least let him be able to walk. Like, don't, like, if I have to take care of him, I will, but that's, like, I already been taking care of 5 children. Like what is this assignment I'm on? Please. So if it's just the haircut we worried about, then I'll just send you to, this guy that I barter with for poker services. And so that worked out. And when I sent him to the barber, my barber guy, James called me. He was like, man, that's a cool guy. James didn't know anything. He was like, that's a cool guy, but he sure is cheap. He was like, he's super cheap. All he's talking, he lives in his car. He saved his money. He won a bracelet and he don't spend any money. Like, I was thinking, oh my goodness. I hadn't met him yet. I sent him to the barber without meeting him. And I'm like, James, can he walk? Like, like, does he have all his teeth in his mouth? Like, let me know. James was like, yeah, he's not a bad looking guy. He's just really cheap.
Now, meanwhile, I'm leaving Laughlin and I'm going to meet her for the first time after basically calling her for an interview on the 8th, and like by day 5 I was in love.
He was convinced that I wasn't lying to him, that I wasn't trying to get anything from him by day 5.
Right. She did enough. We had enough things in common that I knew that, like she said, when she said, okay, this is going to freak you out. It did. But after, a couple of days of conversation, I could understand more of where she was coming from. I started to feel the same way. And so on the way up there to get the haircut and, to meet her for the first time, I'm calling everybody I know that's close to me and well, not calling because I don't do phone calls, but I was texting people and telling them to call me because I got something important to tell you, which is something I don't do.
Right.
And so on the way up there, I'm, on the phone with my mom, my grandma, like Andrew, like all my, close friends for, even from before poker, and just telling them like, I'm about to meet like, the person I'll be with for the rest of my life. And so now I still have never seen it, never seen it.
Wow.
And so I go get the haircut, and then we plan to meet at a park. And so I leave the barbershop on my way to the park. And did you want to tell them what happened before I got to the park?
Yeah, I decided that I wasn't gonna do it.
Oh my!
I decided that because I just wanted him to know that he was my soulmate. I didn't want it to get so intense and move so fast, and I didn't want a boyfriend or a relationship. Like, I just wanted you to know that you're somebody that I'm supposed to know, but it just moved so fast. And the whole time we talked on the phone, it wasn't like we were talking about being together or getting together or any of that. We were just like catching up on our lives and how they were just so parallel. And then all of a sudden, day 10 come, and now I'm about to meet this guy that's in love with me, and I feel like I'm in love with him. And I'm like, listen, this is not supposed to be happening. Like, so I just decided that I wasn't gonna do it. I tried to call him, but he didn't answer his phone like usual to tell him that I didn't want to do it. And
this time I didn't answer my phone because I was close to the park, and so I pulled off. I pulled off to the side before I got to the park so I could jump out and brush my teeth. so my phone was still in the car, and I missed that phone call. So I had no idea that she was like having second thoughts. And so, okay, what happened after that?
is this story too long?
No,
We can't end it now.
go next year for part 2. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, cliffhanger. Got to come back for next week for the next episode.
So my sister, my oldest sister that was on the podcast with me that I did, she called me and she said, listen, do you believe that this is the vision that God was giving you in your dream? And I said, yes. She said, well, if it is, you're going to miss out on your blessing if you don't go. And I said, it's okay, because as long as he knows, like, it's okay. I'm going to tell him. And she said, she was just telling me, like, you sacrifice all your life for everybody else. Like, this is a gift. And even if it's not a gift, in the end, at least you have this experience. Like, you owe this to yourself. You need to go and get your gift, because I believe that this is your gift. And I said, okay. So I just threw on some clothes. I'm like, well, I'm not putting makeup. I'm not doing anything. If it is, he's gonna see me how I am. Now I just sent him to go get a haircut, saying, make sure you come clean, make sure you do all of this. And so I went to the park and I just sat in my car for like 30 minutes. I got there like 30 minutes early, and I just sat there and I saw him pulling up and I froze. I'm like, I'm not getting out this car. So he came over and he had put some music on. So it was a whole bunch of people in the park, children, families, everything. And this guy who's telling me he's so introverted and don't talk to people and all this other stuff, he pulls up, have music on, and come get me out the car and slow dance with me in front of the whole park.
Like
Carlos.
3 or 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
This is not the Carlos
I
that
know.
But so these people know me. They know this is not something.
That is.
That's what I was thinking. Like,
How much money would you pay for video of that?
he videoed it.
I got the
Oh,
we don't have to pay anything.
You messed up the money.
all I can say is that this makes me so happy that you climbed into the trunk of the car that time.
Yeah.
Because if not, we probably don't become as close. You don't meet Andrew Brokos.
None
The
of this.
podcast
There's
never
so
happens.
much, right? I mean, Lori going deep, right? Like all of these things that happened. And I'm sitting here listening to this and I'm like, I'm not going to parallel our stories, but there's like so many similarities to how I met my wife. I mean, we met in a park and we ended up having an 8-hour all-nighter conversation on our first phone call. And we kind of knew right away. So like, I'm hearing all this and it's like bringing up emotions for me because I can relate to a lot of this, even the spiritual side. So it's so cool to hear it. It's like I'm kind of reliving some things here too. And yeah, this doesn't sound like Carlos at all.
Yeah. But it's a great version of Carlos.
Yeah.
My favorite version.
I'm getting worried that maybe I haven't met my person. Because my wife and I just met band class in high school. And I still don't answer the phone when she calls.
Gotta help me answer.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. So we met that day, hit it off, and then we later recorded the podcast.
Well, you missed something important because I told him that I wanted to meet at this park because I wanted to climb the mountain just in case. I wanted to see if he can like endure.
This guy's an
Because
Test.
That's funny.
because I don't watch TV. I don't do the normal things that people do. Like I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't watch TV, I don't club, I don't.
Other things we haven't covered.
Yeah,
I was
so
gonna say that sounds like
he
fun.
had to really accept me for who I am. Like I have a meditation room inside of my closet. Like that's kind of weird, and I entertain myself by, like I have a pole in my bedroom, right, and I play on the pole by myself, and so in my house is my place of like play. I'm really into crystals and stones, and I have that all around. I'm into plants and talking to my plants and stuff like that. So it was gonna take like a special person to deal with me because I like jazz on for my plant and not television that has all this action and killing, and I can't listen to any of that and go to sleep. Like just yesterday, it was on Facebook, people were posting something about a submarine or something. I don't know what it's about, but I wanted to know. So I'm asking Carlos before I read about it. Do you know what's going on? Like, did a submarine go under or something? He was like, well, I don't know. And he didn't want to research it. He was still playing online. So I was like, let me see. So I started clicking on stuff. And I clicked on something where it was like some killing or something. Carlos came and took the phone. He was like, you're going to be dreaming about this tonight. Because that's how it is. So I can't watch television movies because it become real life to me. Yeah. Like you guys, most people can watch a movie and it's a movie. For me, is like real. I feel all the emotions of everything that's happening. So it was going to take a special person to deal with that. Poor David, like the things he had to deal with, And so I find peace in nature. So I needed to know if he can climb a mountain or he can, and so we were going up the mountain after we finished dancing or whatever. We were going up the mountain and he looked back and he said, look how far we came. We came. And because we were kind of high. And in that moment, all I heard was like this journey that we were taking together. Look how far we've came together, but we were separate. So in that moment, it felt like he was off, like in the military or something, and he just came home. And we both on our own journey was climbing. And we both look back and say, like we're here. And in that moment, that's when all the walls, everything came down. I was like, okay, God, I get it. I hear you. Yeah. So that's what happened. So getting back to Jay, I put a post and I put a quote from the letter that I wrote.
This was in April. So, so when we met at the park was the 18th of March, and then in April is when she put up this Facebook post.
Yeah, and the post says something like, "You were created for me, and we just took the long route to finally meet," or something like that. And I just put a picture of us. And Jay, who I didn't even know I was friends with on Facebook, but I gave her my information that day that I met her. We never talked. She hit me up and said, "Is this Carlos Welch?" And I was like, yes. Like, how do you know? She was like, "Oh my God, that's the guy I was trying to tell you about last year." She was like, "No way." She was like, "Can I call you?" And I'm like, "Sure." She said, "You remember last year and you were so sad and I was telling you that this is the guy I'm trying and the internet wouldn't work and you said it's okay." And she said, "That's him." She said, "How did you meet him?"
He's like, "How much time you got?"
Yeah.
Right. And she said, she was like in damn near in tears. She was like, "I can't believe it." And I said, "Well, I moved to Vegas when you told." She said, "You moved to Vegas?" I was like, "You told me to move to Vegas."
Yeah.
She was like, "You moved to Vegas and you found him and all of this." Now, to go back a little before that, and like this stuff happens to me all the time. So maybe during that time after I met Jay, this girl named Ilanit from Atlanta, who's also is a poker professional, she sent me a is it called a tweet or a Twitter? What is it
A
called?
DM.
No. You know, when people post on Twitter. What's it called?
tweet.
A tweet. She sent me a tweet where this girl entered into a contest, and what the contest was like, name your favorite professional poker player. And some girl that I didn't know at the time said, you know, my favorite player is Gloria Jackson because I was watching her go deep in a tournament in Hard Rock. And when she was walking back in from her break, her fans all put on Dreams and Nightmares because that's my song by Meek Mill. And everybody was like singing it, and it was like 9 or 10 people left. We were playing for over 100,000. And she said, and she had on a tiger mask with gloves and a dress. And she just walking through the poker room like she was about to take on a fighting match or something. So she posted it, and I think she won the contest or whatever. But this lady sent me the tweet because she knows that I'm not on Twitter like that. And I was like, that's so dope. Like, who is this girl? I want to meet her. Like, if she's a fan of mine, I can definitely give her some classes or something.
Yeah.
I thought it was dope. And so she was like, well, her name is on the bottom of it. So of course I'm not on I don't know how to do that stuff, right? So I didn't know how to find her, and I didn't want to ask Ilanit like, how do I find this girl, because I would really seem lame or whatever. So I just left it alone. So then one day, this is like I met Carlos in March. This is like in January or December or whatever. I'm at the Wynn playing a tournament, and then I go to sit down, and I'm like, this is weird. I never played with another black woman at a tournament. So I sit down and I'm playing, and I just said out loud at the table, I was like, this is so weird. Like, I'm sitting on the side of another black woman in the Wynn. Like, that doesn't happen often. And the whole table started laughing. The way that I said it was funny. And she was like, I know who you are. I'm your biggest fan. She was like, I wrote about you in a contest. I was like, no way, you're not this person. And I meet her. And when I meet her, she's like so starstruck. I was like, girl, stop. I'm here just like you. This is a $200 tournament and we're trying to get money. Like, no, I'm no one, because I never liked that. I'm like, poker was always a way to take care of mine. And I have 5 kids. I grind for mine. That's on every bag, you know, I post. So it wasn't to get famous, to be on the podcast. I don't care about that. Like, I come from a plantation, small town Louisiana, where I didn't have hot water. I didn't know what color television was. We were so poor, living on a plantation, you know, using damn near outhouses to use the bathroom. So I'm like, I don't care about that. Like, we're human. We all use the bathroom the same. No one's special, you know. And so she couldn't believe it. And I was like, take my number. We can study. I need a friend here in Vegas, you know. And so she took my number. We started studying, playing poker together. And she was like, listen, I'm going to buy a camera. I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to do whatever. We're going to get you on Twitter. And we're going to get you out there. And I'm going to put your face out there because you're going to get sponsored. I'm going to do whatever I can because you need to be out there. This is this girl from... Like, she just come from, so she's buy all this fancy equipment. Her name's Alicia, and she's doing this. She's like, you got to come over, and we have to do this, do that. I was like, girl, that's too much. I got kids. You know? We can't do all this. So she was already prepping me to meet Carlos without me even knowing it, right? And then one day, I don't know what happened. Like, she was like my best friend, and she just disappeared. So not disappeared, but we just stopped talking. She was like, I'm dealing with some stuff. You know, let's just stop talking. So I was so sad. I was like, what happened to her? And then like a couple months later, I met Carlos, and he was already doing the same stuff that she was trying to get me into. So her purpose in my life was to prepare me. Jay's purpose in my life was to prepare me. And all these people was preparing me for him the whole time. And when he came along, I knew it. You know, and Jay was like, she couldn't believe it. She was like, you are who you say you are. So she was just like, you know, so that's our love story, I guess.
All that, you know, preparation about podcasts and stuff is like prepared us for this moment.
This moment, because
right.
I wouldn't have done it. Like the moment I walked upstairs, I would have been like, no. I don't know what these people are up to, but no.
That was an amazing story.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you got to hear it. I'm so glad that you got to hear just everything that happened with this. And it's just so wild. I mean, what makes poker great, I think, you know, having been in it for 20 years is I actually abandoned all of my real life friends when I got into poker because I met so many more real people in poker that changed my life that the people that I knew outside of poker just kind of became irrelevant. And so just getting to go back and hear all the stories and how it all came back from TP, it's like, and I know you know this, it's like we've made lifelong friends through this and soulmates and all of these things, and that's what makes this game so great.
It makes the world both bigger and smaller at the same time.
Yeah.
Like bigger in that there's people that I know and I'm friends with now that I never would have met in another context, but smaller in that how connected it can be, you know, it's so fast. Just
I've said that to Carlos many times. Like, there was probably 0% chance that Carlos and I would have ever met if we didn't play poker. I mean, I guess we live almost in the same part of the country at the time, but that was about the only thing that we had in common. You know, like we would never run into each other.
Exactly.
So I'm always thinking.
So I do have to ask. Because this is one of my all-time favorite things. And I know you'll remember this. I don't know if you even know about this. Have you seen the Carlos Drives Through the Petting Zoo video?
Oh, hilarious. Like when I saw that, because he was at my house and he put it on for my son and I, and when I saw that, I was like, this is my man. this is my man. Like, listen, the reason why I said that, because years before, I took my kids to the petting zoo, and the giraffe, the same one, without knowing Carlos, the giraffe that was in that, listen, the giraffe that was in that petting zoo, cars were passing by blowing horns and it wouldn't come out the tree for no one. Okay? No one. And the driver that was driving the little van for us was like, oh, you just have to just look at it, take pictures of it from way over there. It won't come. So I yell out to the giraffe. I was like, hey, giraffe, do you know our God? The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? And I'm like yelling at the giraffe. The giraffe turned his head, looked, came down, and walked. I just kept walking. It took the giraffe for a couple minutes and walked all the way to my van, looked at me eye to eye, put his head all the way down, and took his mouth was like here on my arm. And I was like, I love you. And the giraffe was like looking at me in my eye. My kids, everyone, all the people that was in the cars behind was blowing for the giraffe to come. And then afterwards, the giraffe turned back around, went right back to the tree. I said, I know who I am. I was so excited. And when I saw that, I was like, no way. Like how we're living the same life, and he's talking to the animals and feeding them. Like who have that much fun feeding animals and taking care of God's creation as I would? And a man, like a man, I was like, oh, this is my man. This is my man.
Even the giraffe tried to tell her about me.
Even the giraffe.
This guy Carlos came here. My internet won't work. I will show you.
Like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, like these are like the type of things, the coincidence that happen. That is like when you put all these things together. There's no way. Like it's literally like this person has lived my life, and I live her life. It's the craziest thing I've ever been a part of.
Another timeline. Like, so all of these women that I meet now, they know more about Carlos than I know. So it's like I'm taking lessons because they've been listening to the podcast for 10 years. They know his life. So it's almost like I'm just like the side chick and the other girl. But it's fine because I'm like taking notes and listening, which is good for me because it gives me comfort in he is who he say he is. So that's perfect because so what was I about to say? Oh, so I was playing poker year before last, I think it was. When did you win your bracelet and had to take care of your grandmother?
2021.
It was 2021. I had just left Vegas playing poker for the summer, and all this reaching and pulling and sitting and
a lot of pops.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
You gotta tell me.
So I ended up hurting my shoulder. And so I went to a chiropractor and I had a very good one. He was constantly adjusting my neck and adjusting my back, and everything seemed like I was getting better. Right. And then one day he decided that I guess he wasn't in the office. He was going on vacation or something. So he had another chiropractor doctor that's been doing it for like 25 years. And he adjusted my neck. And when he adjusted my neck, he ripped my carotid artery.
Whoa.
And I got up from the table. I felt like something is not right. Now, this is around the same time he didn't want a bracelet and found out that his grandmother is sick and could be on her deathbed.
Yeah, so I won my bracelet in July of 2021, and like all my family's back in Atlanta. And so while I'm winning the bracelet, what I didn't know is that my grandmother had a heart attack and went into the hospital pretty much the same day. And I didn't find out about this until later, when it was about a month, I think, that she was in the hospital because there was complications with other stuff, while she was there that kept her in there. And so when I found out that she had been in the hospital, I was like, okay, I'm coming to visit. So I flew down and went and visited her at the hospital, and I kind of saw how bad it was. And my aunt was basically, the only person that had the time and the know-how to kind of like, attend to her at the hospital. But I told her that I'm going to fly home. I'm going to fly back to Vegas, get my car, and then drive back and help her with my grandmother. So this was like August, like a month after winning the bracelet, because of poker, I don't have to go to work the next day. I don't have a schedule. I got free time to do important stuff like this. And so I went back, and my aunt and I just basically stayed overnight with my grandmother in the ICU, like, 3 days. Like she would stay for 3 days in a row. I would stay for 3 days in a row, and we would go back and forth. And it probably took till like middle of September before she finally, like, she was super close at one point, but she pulled through. And when she did, I came back to Vegas. But she was in the hospital for about 2 months. And so, this experience of, she found out, what I, did for my grandmother. And then, she went through something similar to that with her neck.
Yeah. So similar around the same time. So when I realized, I got up from the table, I went home, and I started feeling pain on my left side. And then I was like, I'm okay. I'm just going to lay down. And then all of a sudden, like my whole left side was shutting down. And so I got up and I was like, I got to get to the hospital. And so when I got to the hospital, I guess they thought that I might have had a stroke or something. So I wasn't thinking that. I just thought, like, look, I went to the chiropractor and I'm in pain. I need some medicine or something. So they did an MRI and they came back and it was like, who's here with you? And I was like,
that's not good.
Yeah.
Not the
It's
question.
like, yeah, call someone. So I called David and I called my sisters and my daughter and I was like, what's going on? And they were just like, there's a tear and there's the bleeding. It stopped, but there's a tear. There's nothing that we can do. And if it starts again, it's nothing we can do. Because you can't have surgery. And it was like, so we're going to keep you, put you wherever. They had to put me on blood thinners, medicine. And I was just laying there. And they talk, they got me on like a high dose of morphine or whatever, all this medicine. And I'm looking at David and I'm looking at my family and I'm like, is everything okay? Like, what's going on, because I'm kind of out of it. And that happened, and it was like, I'm in the hospital for days, and all they can do is kind of watch me, monitor me, see what's happening. And at that point, I'm like, I'm not nervous or scared. I'm just like, I have been practicing meditating for years. So I knew that I couldn't stress, because now at this point I can't take no stress, I can't take no worry. My blood has to stay thin. If it clots at any point, that's it. Like, and I'm just there in the hospital, and then eventually they send me home. I'm on all this medication, I'm on bed rest. And like, I remember going to this Eastern acupuncture guy, and I went to him for a detox like 6 months prior. And where they give you acupuncture, give you these herbs to detox your kidneys, your liver, your everything. I just did that just because I wanted to do it. Well, good thing that I did that, because when they did all those tests on me, my cholesterol was so perfect. They said they hadn't seen an American with cholesterol that perfect ever. So, which helps, because that's where, if my artery is clogged,
Yeah.
And so when they gave me that, I said, I need to go back to the Eastern acupuncture doctor. And that doctor had lost his wife to some other type of complications. And he said, you should have came to me. You never go to a chiropractor, because they're not doctors. They practice, and they can really hurt you. And it took a lot of my poker money, but I went to him 4 to 5 times a week and got acupuncture. And that man, like, he healed me. I know for sure he healed me. He would put me in this hallucination like state. Like, he'll put the needles in so deep where it's almost like I was hallucinating, where I was having like out of body experiences. He would tell me to meditate and see myself, my body healing and everything. I went from barely can walk to dress myself to like healed in like 2 to 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's scary.
So like the experience that she went through, when she found out the experience that I went through with my grandmother, that was another coincidence that, made her realize that, that I was someone that was for her.
Yeah, and that you can take care of me because my kids, my older kids, was like, "Mom, you have too many requirements. You don't eat this. We can't go get you Wendy's or anything like that, so you can eat. You want us to go get organic lettuce, to wash it in vinegar, to chop it up, to do this." And I'm like, "I did this for you guys growing up."
Yeah.
They're like, "We're gonna have to put you in a nursing home because we can't afford to take care of you." So when he told me that happened to him, and he stopped everything that he was doing to take care of his grandmother, like not his mom but his grandmother, I was just like, that's my man. that's my man right there, you know.
So great.
And the other thing about that experience, seeing my grandmother in the hospital kind of gave me like a vision of like, you know, where I would be if I didn't, you know, I don't, if I didn't, I'm gonna say get my stuff together. Nah, stuff is not the word I was thinking. But so after that, you know, I really dedicated myself to being healthier because you guys know, like, I wasn't eating organic or like it was Oreos.
Cookies.
I don't think there's organic Oreo. So like, you know,
Resale shop.
yeah. So I was eating bad up until that experience with my grandmother scared me, and so even that kind of like prepared me for her in terms of like another thing when we met. You know, two people from the South interested in like, you know, eating well.
Yeah.
And so that was like so many coincidences, and poker players that are interested in eating well. Like so many coincidences that just like life just kind of prepared us for each other.
Wow.
Amazing.
What's on the poker agenda for today or tomorrow? What's coming up?
Mystery bounty. Pull the big one.
Pull the big one.
Yeah, we've been talking about the things we had in common, but the things that we kind of didn't have in common, talking about poker, was I lived my poker life like I play poker in a very spiritual sense, right? And he's a very logical person, and I'm a very faith-based, mental type person. So I'm the type of person that if I think it and I believe it and I see it, then it's gonna happen. And I try to convince him it's gonna happen. He's like, "No, numbers don't work like that." It's like it doesn't work like that.
Damn.
By the way, I used to be a math teacher.
And I'm like, listen, it does work like that. All you have to do is do this. You make the plan, you write it down, you visualize it, you do this, you do that, and he was like, no, it doesn't work like that. And so we would butt heads, and I would be like, well, all I have to do is play this $200 satellite, and then I'll get, or this $400 satellite, and I can get to this 3K, and then I can take this 3K and turn it into 90,000. He was like, no, that doesn't work like that with the bankroll. I'm like, what are you talking about?
That's a bankroll.
Like, what do you need all this for? Like, I understand having a poker bankroll and this and that, but you don't have to have 50 buy-ins to play this and that. Like, all you have to do is have this amount of money and this amount of faith and this amount of this, and study this amount, you know, and you put it all together and it's gonna happen.
I figured it out.
Did you?
Yeah. I got the wrong coach. I've been with the wrong coach.
Talk to any of my students. Talk to any of the people that I coached before. Like I have this one student. He's a doctor. Like very, but he wasn't that great at poker. And then I started coaching, and I'm telling you take a little bit of this and a little bit of this, and you put this together. But you can't do this thing like, you know, poker is like life. It's very spiritual. You know, you put it all together. He went from like not winning at all to like cashing for over 40,000. His cash never was over 5,000. And then he left me and thought he can do it on his own, and he hadn't won since. And he called me back this summer. I'm like, well, you know, that train has left. You know? No more $50 coaching lessons.
Yeah. Going up.
So you're right, but
So, to answer your question about future plans in poker, so You tell about the main event,
What about it?
about the seat.
Yeah, no, we talked about it before.
Oh, we talked
Downstairs.
about it. About you winning the seat.
Yeah, see, that's another thing. Faith that he don't believe. He's like 1 out of 1,000. That's like playing a tournament for a penny or $1 or doing some type of math stuff. I'm like, listen, none of that stuff don't matter. Okay, me being one person with my skill, my faith, I can beat 1,000 people, 999 people. That's easy. Like what are we talking about here? And he trying to calculate. Well, that's like what did you say? That's like buying in. Well, he was like, would you play for 10 cent, 5 cent, 10 cent a poker? I'm like, yeah, and I'll beat them too. That's what you're talking about. But yeah, like, and
So we
I.
got the mystery bounty. Got the ladies event in how many days?
Well, I'm supposed to have the mystery bounty, but I decided to be here with you guys and it started at 10. Carlos liked to late register and stuff. But I like to be there early and
Are the bounties on day 1 or they wait till day 2? Is it like that?
Day 2.
day
Okay.
2.
You
But
get
this
to day
is pretty fun. I just played a bounty. I just played the $2,200 one at the Win.
Okay.
That Carlos wouldn't suggest have been a great idea because I was like, here's the plan. Here's the plan. Did I write it out? Or I just told him.
I don't know about the mystery bound one. I don't
Okay,
know.
so I was like, here's the plan. I'm gonna take $400. I'm gonna play a satellite. I'm gonna win it, and then when I win it, then I'm gonna take that. That's gonna turn to 2,200, and then we're gonna play the mystery bounty, and then I'm gonna play the mystery bounty, and then I'm gonna get some bounties, and then we're gonna go from there. And Carlos would be like, well, if you play a 400. First of all, you got to be rolled for a 2,200 because you're not playing a 400, you're playing a 2,200. And if you're not rolled for a 2,200 because you need 50 times that buy-in, and am I saying this right?
It was more than 50.
and if you're not rolled for that, then you need to sell action. And so if you don't sell action, then you're playing too high. And I'm like, listen, forget all of that. We're going to buy into the 400. I'm going to win the seat, and we're going to play it. And that's what we did. So I played it, and I busted out right at the end of, like, after dinner break. Like, yeah.
So you and Debbie are playing the women's event in a couple of days. How many days is that?
Yes.
5? No, 6 days. Thursday, the 29th.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's gonna be
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
And in between
Debbie
that,
is Rob's mom, right? We can't see her, but she's
She's the
Yeah.
one making us look good right now.
right. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna play, and we're gonna be Team Us. We're gonna have to get us a name, and we're gonna talk on breaks. But I'm gonna tell you now, we don't talk about no bad beats. We don't talk about what we can't do because all things are possible. All things are possible. If I can still be here talking after I had that just happened to me, and all of a sudden to just stop, then all things are possible, and we can definitely beat 1,000 women easily, like easy. Why couldn't we?
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
So she's just gonna spend all summer doing all the satellites and cashing all the money.
Yep, that's the plan. Megas and online bracelet events.
And KV, your plan?
I'm retired. Gloria told me I don't believe I can win, so I'm not gonna play anymore. Yeah, no, I just came out for a very quick trip, so I leave basically tomorrow. Well, not basically, I leave quite literally tomorrow.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I played the tag team event and gambled away some money in the pits, which I know Carlos loves.
No.
And
I mean, PFA.
I know I should have believed. So yeah, that's my plan.
All right.
Well, I gotta say, like, when we put this idea together to do this, I had like plans and hopes, and you guys have already, like, we could just shut the set down and cancel the other 8 days of guests.
How are they going to compete with this?
I know this has been incredible.
You guys, whoever else is coming, you got to bring some stories. I'm telling you.
Or some soulmates.
Yeah, bring some stories.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for doing this. This has been fun. I've had a blast, and definitely looking forward to where the story goes and where your guys' careers go. And yeah, I don't.
This is just the beginning.
I think so too.
I mean, I always love to get together with Carlos, and now I get to meet the other Carlos.
Yes, yes.
I feel like I've known you as long as I've known Carlos, which is interesting.
Yeah, so his nickname growing up was Low, and mine was Glow. So yeah, Glow and Low.
And you can hear more about these stories on the Thinking Poker podcast, which will probably be out on Monday. And we tell a lot more details on the stories that we
Awesome.
tell.
Yeah, pitch the Think Your Poker Daily as well.
Oh, yes. Thinking Poker Daily is a strategy podcast that we have on Patreon that you can choose to pay $5, $15, or $50 a month, depending on how many episodes you want access to. And instead of like on the regular podcast, which is free, Thinking Poker, we do stories like we interview people about, you know, their life pre-poker and during poker, like we did with Gloria. And occasionally we'll do a strategy episode on those before those interviews. And some people are more interested in the strategy than the players. So if all you want is poker strategy, that's what Thinking Poker Daily is for.
And I will tell you it's worth the money. It's worth the money. It's my daily poker warm up. Anytime sometimes I save a bunch up if I'm going to a tournament to drive at the casino and just listen to one after the other, about 10-15 minutes long, and they're great.
Gloria, she's doing strategy episodes with us now.
Oh,
Thinking Poker Daily.
Finally a good coach. Now Andrew and Carlos are I have been my poker coaches for so long, and TP has been my poker coach for a very long time, and now I just got to get this the second part of this, where I get the mental part and the belief. I get that part down. Watch out, guys. I'm coming for you. Yeah.
awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for being on, and everybody, thank you for watching. You guys know where to find Carlos, Hip Hop Trivia 101 on Twitter.
Hip Hop 101 Trivia.
I got it backwards. Dang it. You guys can find over there. And of course, you can find all the stuff over on the Thinking Poker podcast. You're going to see Gloria all over the place. Even though you see her social media, you're going to see her at the top of the leaderboards, crushing tournaments. And yeah, thank you everybody for hanging out. We will see you guys tomorrow again, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. This is just day one. We got 8 more days to go. See you guys soon.